Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you are curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty's Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly to you about the round one results for the Middlegrade Readers Choice Awards. I have the long list books in this pot, and I'm going to reveal to you which books made it onto the long list and let you know how to vote in round two. So remember, the key thing here is this is about the books you are most excited for. You do not have to have read them. I just want to know which books you're most excited for. So we can find the middle grade book that most people are so excited to read about. I'm also going to briefly talk about my process for pulling all these things together. If you're not sure what the Middlegrade Readers Choice Awards is, then I will link a video here and you can go and look at my first video where I talk about what it is. Thank you so much everyone for voting. It's been really lovely seeing everyone's engagement in this project, and thank you for helping me decide which books we are most hyped about that came out between November 23 and October 2024. So I have 20 books in here that have made it onto round two, which is the long list, and I'm now going to reveal the long list to you. The reason for doing that is just purely because then I don't have to decide what order I'm going to tell you, like whether I should tell you all of the ones that were from the consideration long list and then the hidden gems, and remind you again of which ones were automatically on this long list. I'm just gonna pull them all out like a nice revealy thing, but they have all been voted for by you, and the details also taken from Storygraph and Goodreads as well. Editing Chatty is going to put up some nice magical pictures here so you can see the covers of the books. So the first book making its way onto the long list is The One and Only Family. This is book 4 in the series by Catherine Applegate. The first book was The One and Only Ivan, and this is a contemporary story about animal welfare. Book 2 making its way onto the long list is The Lumbering Giants of Windy Pines. This is one of the hidden gem books that made its way onto the long list. This is a sort of spooky fantasy book by Mo Netz. The third book that made its way onto the long list is The Girl Who Kept the Castle. This is another hidden gem book, and it is a fantasy book by Brian Gowden. Book number 4 is The Secret Language of Birds by Lynn Kelly. This is a contemporary book, and this was a book that was voted for you on the consideration long list. Book number 5 is Yesterday Crumb and the Tea Witch's Secret. That is another book that was on the hidden gems list that you voted for. This is a fantasy book, and it is by Andy Sagar. It's book 3 in the Yesterday Crumb series. The next book is book number 6, The Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight is a fantasy book by Steve Bambury, and this was a book on the consideration long list that you voted for. The next book, I've got 2, is Medusa. This is a book by Catherine Marsh. It is a fantasy book, and it is the first book in a new series called The Myth of Monsters. Next book is The Last Hope School for Magical Delinquents. This is a penultimate hidden gem book. We have one more left. This is a fantasy book by Nikki Powell-Preto. Next book is Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston. This is a fantasy. It is book 3 in the Amari and the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations books, and this was from the consideration long list. Okay, 10th book coming out is The Whisperwicks The Labyrinth of Lost and Found, which is by Jordan Lees. The Whisperwicks is a new fantasy series, so obviously this is book 1. And this book came from the consideration longlist. So we're waiting for 1 more hidden gem, 4 more automatic books, and 5 more books from the consideration longlist. Okay, book number 11 is The Forgotten Magic, which is the first book in the Artisan series, which is a new fantasy series by L.D. Lipinski, and this came from the consideration longlist. So 4 more books left from the consideration longlist. Next out we have the final hidden gem book. It is Gut Reaction by Kirby Larson and Quinn Wyatt. And this is a contemporary book. So there we go. You've got all your hidden gem books out now. Okay. We have one of the automatic books. So this is Coyote Lost and Found. This is a contemporary book by Dan Gemeinhardt, and it is a companion novel to Coyote Sunrise. Okay, we have The Order of Misfits. This is the second book in the Arcspire series by Jamie Littler, which is a fantasy book, and this is a book from the consideration long list. So we have got 3 more books that were automatically put on here, and we've got 3 books left from the consideration long list. I have no idea what you voted for, but I hope the ones you want, at least one of the ones you want, is on the list. Okay, book number 15 is a mystery book. It is The Mystery of Locked Rooms by Lindsay Curry, and this was one of the books you voted for on the consideration long list. They're gonna be tangled is what they are. They're currently joined together. There we go. I've untangled, and we have it's another consideration long list book. It's a fantasy, The City Beyond the Sea by Parry Thomas. It's book 2 in the Green Wild series. So we have 3 books from the automatic long list and 1 book from the consideration long list. Okay, the next book is an automatically placed book. This is Tree Table Book by Lois Lowry, and it is historical fiction. And then we have another book that's automatically been put on the long list, which is Skander and the Chaos Trials. This is the 3rd book in the Skander fantasy series by A.F. Stedman. Okay. It is an automatically placed book on the long list, and it is Keedy by Elle McNichol, which is a contemporary book. So the final book from the consideration long list is the City Spies book, Mission Manhattan. This is book 5, and it is by James Ponti. And there you have it. That is the 20 books that are now on the long list. Ta-da! I will be putting up some graphics both in my Discord and on my community page, so you can see which books won the hidden gems, which books won the consideration long list, and then I'll be creating a new graphic with the long list books, so the 20 books that are on the long list that you can be voting for as of now. Round 2 is open, so please go to the description box, find the link. It's very clearly signed. There's a Google document, so click that and you get to vote for 5 books. You get 5 votes. Which books do you want to see on the shortlist? You can go into the description box, and I have put Storygraph links for all of the books, so you can click those and find out more information about the books and look at other people's ratings and reviews. This is very exciting. I've already spoken with people on my Discord, as suggested by Lucia, that in 2025 we will do a buddy read of the winning book on my Discord, which will be lots of fun. How did I go through the process of getting all these books into this list? So what I did was I used Storygraph and I used Goodreads, and I went through, and my kind of cut-off criteria was it needed to either have over 300 people on Goodreads rating the book, or 100 people on Storygraph, because there is a very marked difference between how many people rate on Goodreads and how many people rate on Storygraph, so I gave them different entry points. Or it had to have a 4.25 rating or above on Storygraph or Goodreads, which is higher than the ones in the Goodreads Choice Awards. I realise I think they're 3.5 that you need to have. So 4.25, I obviously kind of pushed it a little bit, but it was either, so you didn't have to have a rating of 4.25 if you had, for example, 300 or 301 people on Goodreads who'd rated the book. I would still kind of put you in that category. I didn't include any graphic novels, just because I find that it's a very different format, and I find it quite hard to kind of compare against the novels. So I filled everything out. So I kind of went through, there was like some handy searches that I went through, and also like the books that I was kind of interested in the titles of or had heard about. And quite a lot of the ones that I'd heard about did not make the criteria. They were reviewed by much less than 100 people, and sadly got less than 4.25. So I couldn't include them. I could pop them in as a hidden gem later on should I wish to. So having done all of that and cut out the ones that didn't make it, I then went through and organised them and gave them points out of all. I think there's like 38 books on my list. So I went through all of them and I gave them a number. So the book, for example, that had the most ratings, I gave that one a number 1, and went through all the way to the book that had the least ratings, which would then get a number 38. I did this the same for the star rating. So how many people thought it was, well, of the average star rating each book gets. So for example, like a book that had got the closest as possible to 5 stars, I would then put that as number 1. There were no 5-star books. It was all I think it's possibly like 4.75 or something was the highest. So that one got the number 1, and all the way to the one that got the least highest star rating that would then get number 38. So I did that for both the Storygraph and the Goodreads categories, and then I added up the numbers. So the books that got the smallest number, I then picked out the top 5 from that list. So those ones automatically got a place within the long list. So these are books that most people have wanted to read because there's been lots of people reading them, but also people enjoyed reading them as well. They got a high star rating. So that's kind of what I based my criteria on. With the other books, I could have then just gone, okay, and then the next 20 books, so I'd have the top 25 with the 5 automatically graduating in the next 20. But I also took into consideration the genres that most people who watch this like to read. I did a little poll, and most of you voted for fantasy, followed by a mixture of contemporary and history, and then a few horror. No one was really that interested in historical fiction, so to kind of balance that, there were 2 other historical fiction books that rated very highly, not very highly, but were in the mix, and I just chose the one that got the highest rating of the historical fiction and put that one in, so a percentage of the consideration long list kind of matched what people wanted to read. So fantasy got a larger amount, contemporary got an amount, and horror and mystery got an amount as well, so I made sure we were covering things that people were interested in. So through using that, I managed to kind of shuffle 20 books covering a variety of different genres, so make sure everyone had a choice of reading something or knowing about or being interested in something that was in their preferred genre. And then that was the 20 consideration long list books, and then obviously we had our hidden gems, and then I filled in a form that you got to vote for, which is round 1. Having gone through the things, there were some books that were very clearly doing very well. There was a lot of excitement for those books. And then there were some books that had a lot of ties. And literally, I started organising what I thought it was going to look like. And then I got another person voting and it changed everything. Not fully, not completely changing everything, but there were quite a few books. I thought all these books had gone through. But then there were 3 books tying on a vote. And I was like, I've only got space for one more. So like the next highest level of books, there was 3 of them. So I was like, well, I need to go through those. And I need to see, according to their Storygraph and Goodreads, and I took the most recent ones from it. I then ordered them and to see which one got the most points out of those 3 books and then put that one through. But then the voting changed. So there really was not that much voting between. There was quite a big gap between some of the higher ones. But this level of books, there was very little in it. So by voting, having a few more votes tipped them into the next kind of category of this. And then that one was gone. So I ended up actually having, rather than having 1 place to fill, I ended up having 5 places to fill. And I had to go through 6 books that all had the same number of votes and do that system again. And it was a different book that had to drop out and go in. So that was interesting. And the same with the Hidden Gems. There were 3 books again that I needed to kind of go through the votes and reorganise. So some books just missed out. So your votes absolutely count in all of this. It makes a big difference. You telling me which books you're interested in. So thank you so much to everyone who voted. I hope you have a lot of fun with round 2 as well. So we are going to be voting and we're going to be cutting the long list in half and we'll be making our shortlist. And from that shortlist, you will then get 3 votes. And that will decide which the winning book is going to be. Thank you so much for everyone. I'm so excited to be narrowing it down to find out which book it's going to be. This has already given me a huge amount of ideas of things that I might read in the future. All of the books sound really, really interesting. Obviously, I have my personal preferences, but I am going to keep quiet about my personal preferences because I just want to share these books with you and let you decide and you vote. Happy reading, everyone.